Question number 5. Now, with 16,000 members, wow, a lot, including the Jesuit superior himself, what does he say on August 24, 2018? There's only one person more powerful, that would be Pope Francis, who is also the first Jesuit pope in history. However, many will agree that the front man, commoner, Pope Francis, is in fact subject to his Jesuit general and or other influential individuals, such as the argued great pope and other influential people. You look at it, and the true Jesuit system is about Catholicism, about deception, manipulation, and control. Always, and to the very end, that is what it's about. Let's take a look at the Jesuit general, leader of the Jesuits. August 24, 2019, Jesuit General Sosa made headlines earlier this week when he told Italian magazine Tempe that the devil exists as a symbolic reality, not as a personal reality. Now, if Sosa believes Satan to be a symbolic, not personal, then does he also believe that God is symbol as well? This is heresy, and many members in the Catholic Church would agree. Heresy, highest level. Understand who are Jesuits today. The Society of Jesus and its members, Jesuits, Jesuit priests, they're a learned society. In the 1500s, a society born in Paris, France, out of a need for an organized, educated priesthood. The founder, Ignatius, had a military background. Therefore, priests became soldiers of God. To strive especially for the defense of Catholic ideals, Catholicism, especially participating in the Counter-Reformation. Look at another quote by the messenger, who said, under various disguises the Jesuits worked their way to offices, state, climbing up to be the counselors of kings, shaping everything, policy, nations. They established colleges for the sons of princes and nobles. Wherever they went, followed a revival of popery. In fact, Bill Clinton, who went to the Jesuit University, as well as Joe Biden's son and many other people, and endless others. There is definitely truth to that concept. Infiltration it's everywhere. And it's even invited. Yeah, Jesuit infiltration's even invited. As seen here in June 5, 2017, we can see the House Speaker at that time, John Bonner, he was looking for a chaplain. He wanted Jesuit thought. Bonner had been in talks with Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, a fellow Catholic as well, about finding a Jesuit that they could both support. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, it's said that the House Speaker is the third most powerful person in the country. President, Vice President, and the House Speaker. Now, that is a very valuable very valuable position to influence, indeed. In fact, as of 2019, all three are Catholic as well, and the last two. And Ellen White even shared a few incredible events regarding Jesuit infiltration into the Adventist Church. Very interesting. While in Australia, one of Ellen White's visions showed a man to be hired in the States by the SDA leadership. He was shown that he was Jesuit, an infiltrator. He quickly wrote a letter explaining the vision he had of the man to fill the position. The letter arrived in the U.S. many weeks or months later. Don't quote me, this is from memory. Many weeks later, months later, at the precise time of the interview. This miraculous dream saved the SDA people from being coerced by Jesuit deception, manipulation, once again. thanks to God, okay? Now, in another event, the son of Pastor Gardner of the Oakland SD Church explained a very, very interesting event that took place. His father was a very friendly person, pastor, SD pastor. He made friends with all the clergy, including the Catholic priests. One Catholic priest was also very friendly as well. He made many talks with Father. One day, he came to Father. He said, "Reverend Gardner, I've got something interesting to tell you." Father replied, "Tell me about it." So he said, "Well, you know, we had rather a big meeting," this priest said, "this week, and we discussed your church." And then he continued, "We also discussed other denominations as well," the priest said. "We discussed how we could infiltrate each of the denominations, the Jesuits, our priests." Very interesting. And then he said, one of our priests rose and he said, "There's no problem in infiltrating all the denomination except one. That is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The reason we cannot do it," the Jesuit said, "is that as long as their prophetess is alive, she will put her finger on our men as soon as we make the first step in that direction." Then he said, "So we made no plans in that direction. It's the duty of the Jesuit to do his superior's bidding, to infiltrate and manipulate accordingly." So here's another interesting testimony regarding Jesuit infiltration. Now, November 22, 2015, June Ryak, an STA, she said, "My husband and I, we were in Tacoma Park as I went to the nursing program from 54 to 58. Now, B.G. Wilkinson, Seventh-day Adventist theologian, around in his 80s, she said, at that time, he opened up all the history of the Adventist Church. He was the first PhD in denomination, and became a professor at Battle Creek College. Also became president of Washington Missionary College, where he continued the theology. Eventually, the school decided to relieve him of some of his burden by providing a young replacement. It wasn't too long until some of the students, they came to Dr. Wilkinson. They said, this teaching of this professor, it's different, new thing. Dr. Wilkinson, he didn't confront the professor. Instead, he began watching mail. One day, this envelope came in from the Jesuit Georgetown University. It was for the new theology professor. Dr. Wilkinson took the envelope back to his room. He steamed it open. And inside, he found instructions as to what the professor was to do, what to teach theology students for the next few months. The professor was a Jesuit plan. Dr. Wilkinson, he called him into his office, telling him that he knew his operations. The young professor, he left within the hour, never seen again. As Dr. Wilkinson continued to author 2 books, including Truth Triumphant. The second book was awaiting publishing when SDA minister and historian Dr. Leroy Froome. He called and he had the publishing place destroyed, according to June. This second book was full of Waldensian history. He had gone to libraries across Europe to find true history, Protestantism, Catholicism. Dr. Wilkinson, very sad, didn't have the money to try and publish. Eventually, Dr. Leroy Froome was publishing his own book called Questions on Doctrine. Dr. Wilkinson, he said, "This book, it's pointing a dagger at the SDA message." And the additional authors, he said, they're not even listed. However, the 3 authors, they were most prominent in General Conference. Today, that book is an SDA staple, explaining all the SDA doctrines thoroughly. However, some disagree with his doctrines. But through it, the SDA church became a more tolerable church among the Protestant nations due to our published unifying beliefs with them, according to the book at least. She goes on to say, that 30 years later, while in Oregon, she says, while in conversation with a woman at church who had also formerly lived at Tacoma as well, home park. The woman, she was a good Catholic friend who she had taken this friend to a hospital cafeteria to eat. Walked in Mr. Leroy Froome. She said, "Those are two Catholic priests." To which the SDA woman, she replied, "No, they're SDA General Conference leaders." Catholic woman, she said, "Oh, I've been at service while they were performing Mass." Now, are these suspicious events true? Dr. Leroy Froome, he was later found buried Onyx section cemetery with an unsuspecting symbol on his tombstone, a genie lamp, which can be a symbol of the Scottish Freemason Master Craftsman program. It requires the reading of Albert Pike's book Esoterica, who was Satanist. Regardless of the claims that Jesuits indeed infiltrate organizations, and stories have claimed, according to their own oath, making the story dark possibility. Now, what is the result that these infiltrators inflict upon organizations? Ellen White says something else. She says, "The enemy of souls, he has sought a reformation in the Seventh-day Adventists, and that this reformation would consist in giving up the doctrines which stand as the pillars of our faith and engaging in a process of reorganization. Were this reformation to take place, what would result? Principles given by God himself to the remnant church would be discarded. The fundamental principles that have sustained the work for the last 15 years would be accounted as error. A new organization would be established. Books of a new order would be written." Now, many would say that Leroy Froome's infamous books have caused reorganization. By first writing his book, which explains all SD doctrine thoroughly, depending on what he and his authors believed, the book could be incredibly biased. But one thing for certain is true. The pioneers, they wouldn't recognize the SDA Church today, especially after changing the SDA fundamentals, principles, as has happened. Just as she said would happen. Now see, the Jesuit society is like any other society. Some are enlightened to the nature of the society, while others are not so much. The operation here, age-old Jesuit. Here is the Jesuit, to exterminate and any heretical kings, governments, or rulers, to seek even to preach from the pulpits and to denounce with all the fierceness in your nature our holy religion and hope, and even to descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews, that you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order, the faithful soldier, very faithful soldier of the Pope. He says, "I declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, all Protestants, to exterminate them from the face of the whole earth. I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up, that when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisoned cup, the strangulating cord, steel, poignard, the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or author of the person or persons. At any time may be directed to do so by any agent or superior." Now, the Jesuit creed for a society that was called the Society of Jesus, I think the more appropriate name would be the Society of Else. But this is the backward Orwellian deception societies front with, in order to make the truth, no matter how impossible, real. Abraham Lincoln said something. He said, "The Jesuits have not yet killed me, but they would have surely done it, passed through their most devoted city, Baltimore, had I not defeated their plans by passing incognito a few hours before they expected me. The Pope and the Jesuits, with their infernal Inquisition, are the only organized powers in the world have recourse to the dagger, the assassin, to murder those whom they cannot convince with their argument or conquer with the sword. That's what Abraham Lincoln said. September 5, 2014, with their first pope, Jesuits are making a comeback. That quote by Newsweek.com. June 21, 2018, Jesuits.org. It says, Jesuit organizations denounce unjust treatment of asylum seekers and migrant families. Now, unjust treatment is one thing, but we all know how the migration affecting countries in Europe. One word, disaster. September 9, 2019, Jesuit Pope Francis speaks to the UN Climate Action Summit. He says, I would like to thank the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for convening this meeting, UN Secretary, and for drawing the attention of heads of state and government and of the entire international community and the world public opinion to one of the most serious and worrying phenomena of our time, Pope Francis said. UN climate change. That is the world's biggest problem. That was found at VaticanNews.be. Now, Antonio is a socialist Catholic who serves the UN until 2022. His agenda continues in September 23, 2019, quote, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will host the 2019 Climate Action Summit on September 23, 2019. To meet the climate challenge, the summit will showcase a leap in collective national political ambitions, demonstrate massive movements. www.un.org. That is Antonio. Now, Antonio writes this. The period from now until 2020 is critical to the success of the Paris Agreement on climate change. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls it the defining threat of our time. We should see no end to the urgency, action needed to address it, offering clarity, incentives, scale up ambitions. This is the road to 2020. It requires support from all people, all countries. We must be all in for climate action. www.undp.org. Now let's look at one more thing regarding the Jesuit order, something very critical. It is as follows. On February 19, 2019, Pope Francis, he approves 4 priorities, what we talked about at the beginning. For the next decade, Arturo Sosa, the Superior General of the Jesuits, the Black Pope, today made public the 4 main reference points, known as the Universal Apostolic References, that are to guide the life work of the Jesuits over the next 10 years. He said Pope Francis approved these 4 references. He's entrusted into the Jesuits their mission. Number 1, to show the way to God through discernment and a spiritual experience. Number 2, to walk with the poor, outcasts of the world, those whose dignity has been violated. Mission of reconciliation, justice. Number 3, to accompany young people in the creation of a hope-filled future. Number 4, collaborate, care of our country. So let's unpack this just a little. The Jesuits help us find our way to God through their spiritual exercises. They will save the poor and outcast, violated. They will teach the young people the future, save our planet. If you're watching the signs of the times, 4 priorities given by the Superior General are exactly what's being publicized across the globe. Let's move on to question number 6.
Keep watching for the next video in this series.